It's showtime. All the world's a stage. In this lesson, as we look at idioms and expressions that come from the idea that life is a theater performance. So, America is well known for Hollywood and the movies it makes, but acting actually has a very long history in Western culture, going back over 2,000 years to Greek and Roman cultures. And you can see here in this picture an amphitheater somewhere in Greece where they would have had plays many hundreds of years ago. The traditions of acting and drama continued from the Greek and Roman cultures through the different cultures of Europe over time. Eventually, this tradition of acting in England led to the popularity of William Shakespeare and the plays that he wrote. In one of his plays, Shakespeare wrote, "All the world's a stage, and all men and women are merely players. They have their exits and entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts." His plays were originally performed at a theater in London called the Globe Theatre, and this is a drawing of the Globe Theatre here. And they were very popular during his lifetime, and they actually still are. There's actually still a Globe Theatre in London, although it's not the original one, where they do plays. Theaters and movies around the world still perform his plays, and he's become one of the most popular writers in the history of the English language. So this English love of theater and acting was brought to America with the immigrants who came to America from England. Eventually it developed into the movie industry of Hollywood. So we can see here a picture of Broadway in New York. And it's kind of a mixture of advertisements for different plays that are there and some movies even. So we can see the mixture of theater performance and movies even here. Because of this long history and love of acting in European and American cultures, it's not surprising that many American expressions come from the idea that, like Shakespeare wrote, all the world's a stage and all men and women are merely players. In other words, it's the idea that life is a performance, we are the actors in the performance, and everyone around us is the audience. So let's look at the different elements of this metaphor. First, there's the role or the part. So in a play, the person or the actor is pretending to be whatever role or part that they're playing. So expressions that use the words role or part usually mean something about who somebody is in that situation or what they're supposed to do. For example, to play a role in something means to do something in a situation, like helping or being part of a project. Or to reverse roles means that two people change their jobs or responsibilities with each other, like if a parent pretends to be a child and the child pretends to be a parent. So we've got, for example, the expression to have or play a role in something or a part. You can see here, this kind of looks confusing. We can either use the verb have or play. We can use the noun role or part and in something, whatever the situation is. Or we can say to take part in something. It just means to be involved in whatever's going on. For example, Twitter played an important part in the success of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. So here, Twitter is the thing that's playing the part. Or Twitter played a significant role in the success of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. So even though Twitter is not a person but a thing, we can still say that it played a part or a role. And the situation is Donald Trump's presidential campaign because he was really the first president to use it directly to communicate with people. To have, take, play, or want no part in something is to not be involved in something or not want to be involved in something. So this is saying I don't want to be a part of it. For example, you guys can do whatever you want, but I'll have no part in this. I think it's wrong. So people might say this if they're in a group of people and they think the group of people is doing something wrong. So they'll say, I'll have no part of this or no part in this. To look, dress, or act the part. To look, dress, or behave in a specific way for a situation. For example, make sure to dress well for a job interview. If you want to get a good job, you've got to look the part. And you can see here the picture of the guy in his suit, right? So if you want to be a businessman, then you should dress like a businessman or a businesswoman. If you want to be a teacher, then you should dress or act like a teacher. If you want to be a famous celebrity, then you should start acting and dressing and behaving like a famous celebrity. The act. So the act can either be the whole play or the things one person does in the play. So here, the act is a noun and is related to the word action. Expressions that use the word act often mean something about someone's behavior. For example, to put on an act means to behave in a certain way, but usually a way that is not true for the person, like when someone pretends to be happy but they are really angry. So we have this expression, to put on an act, is to behave in a way that is not true or sincere. For example, she seems like a really nice person, but she's just putting on an act. And you can see that in the picture here. Like the happiness is just a mask that she's wearing. To get one's act together, to get your act together, is to change your behavior or actions in order to become more successful in a situation or in life, usually when you're disorganized or inactive. Inactive means not active. You're not doing something. For example, I haven't been doing my homework all semester, so I really need to get my act together if I want to pass this class. And the idea comes from when you're playing a part in a play or in a movie. If you're not really trying that hard, then your act is not together. It's sloppy, it's disorganized. So you need to practice, you need to do what you're supposed to be doing to get it together. And you'll often hear somebody just telling somebody, get it together, man. That means that whatever you're doing, you're disorganized, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. To clean up one's act. This is similar. It means to change your behavior or actions in a way to become more successful in a situation or life, usually when you've been doing something immoral or illegal. So to get your act together, we usually use this one when you're disorganized or lazy. To clean up your act is usually when you're doing something that's wrong or illegal. For example, when famous people have problems with drugs or alcohol, they usually go to some clinic or rehabilitation center in order to clean up their act. So you might see this expression if you're reading a news article about somebody who went to rehab, which is usually happening all the time to somebody in Hollywood. That's a tough act to follow, or that's a hard act to follow. This means someone or something that is so good that the person or thing after it will probably not be as good. For example, Steve Jobs was an amazing businessman and computer industry pioneer. He's going to be a tough act to follow at Apple. So if you don't know, Steve Jobs was one of the founders of Apple, and he was like the big name and personality that you would see whenever Apple was being advertised or talked about. Now, he died about 9 years ago, I think. When he died, people were worried about what was going to happen to Apple because Steve Jobs was such a strong leader and a strong personality. So they said, oh, he's going to be a tough act to follow, meaning whoever comes after Steve Jobs probably wasn't going to do as good of a job as Steve Jobs did. To have or create drama. So here's another keyword, drama. It means to talk or behave in a situation, or behave like a situation is more serious or bad than it really is. So the drama is like pretending that something is sad or a big deal, right? So to have or create drama means that you're behaving like something is really, really serious or bad when it really isn't. For example, television weather reporting has started to create a lot of drama because reporters are acting like each new storm is the worst storm in the history of the world. And actually, you get this a lot watching any news these days. So if something happens in the world, whoever's reporting it, they usually act like this is the worst thing that's ever happened in the world, especially like right now with the virus that's going around. Yeah, it can be bad, but is it as bad as they're making it out to be? Probably not. So they're creating drama. To be overdramatic, or to be a drama queen. So to be overdramatic is a verb, and to be a drama queen's a noun. It means to get very unhappy, upset, or angry over small things. For example, why are you crying? The test wasn't that bad. Don't be so overdramatic. Or why are you crying? The test wasn't that bad. Don't be such a drama queen. So drama queen is really informal. You wouldn't use that in a formal situation. You might use that with friends or with relatives, or not somebody who's older than you, usually. usually somebody who's the same age or younger than you. So overdramatic means you're putting too much drama, too much sadness or seriousness. The script. So in theater, in acting, the script are the written words, or is the written words that an actor is supposed to say in the play. And you can see here in the picture, she's holding this piece of paper, and this is probably the script, and she's practicing, she's reading it. Because literally the word script means writing. So the script are written words that an actor is supposed to say in the play. Usually when the actors are practicing, they will try and read and memorize the script so that they don't have to look at it when they really do the play. All of the actors have to follow the script, or things will get messed up in the play and people will be confused. So expressions that use the word script usually mean something about what is expected and normal in a situation. For example, to flip the script means that things are happening the opposite of what they normally do. And related to this, one sentence from a script is called a line, like the lines in a newspaper. So if you look at any kind of typed or written material, everything is written in lines, right? So we can also call the script the lines. So when somebody makes a statement that is expected, it's called using a line. So let's look at some examples here. To flip the script. To flip means to turn something over, right? So to flip the script is to reverse roles of people in a situation, or to completely change the way a situation usually is. For example, the media, like newspapers and television news, are usually in control of what people talk about in a presidential campaign. But when Donald Trump ran for president, he flipped the script. So the media had to talk about whatever he was talking about. So whatever the story was, it used to be whatever the story was on the news, then all of the presidential candidates would start talking about that thing. But what happened when Donald Trump was running was he was using Twitter so he could start new conversations. And so then everybody in the news was trying to talk about what Donald Trump was talking about. So he was the one kind of leading it all. So that was flipping the script. To be scripted is to be planned or prepared, formal or predictable. For example, most politicians are too scripted in everything they say and do, so they can seem more like robots than humans. And I chose a picture here of Barack Obama. So he got some grief because when he would talk in public, he would often use these machines called teleprompters. So you see these little rectangular things here. These are actually like little screens so that he can just read off the screens what he's supposed to say. They have two of them here so he can look in different directions as he's saying the same thing, right? To make it look like he's being natural, but he's not. Everything is scripted, right? And here he's in just a classroom with students and he's using the teleprompters. So this is what it means to be scripted. It's like everything that you say is planned out so that it doesn't even seem natural. The opposite of this is to be unscripted. So to be unscripted is to be unplanned or unprepared or spontaneous. For example, reporters are constantly confused by Donald Trump because he's so unscripted. He never says what they expect him to say, and he never does what they expect him to do. That's why I got a picture of Donald Trump here, because if you look at him when he's talking in public, he's rarely reading from something. He's usually just saying whatever is in his brain, which can get people excited or it can cause him a lot of problems. But that's kind of his style. So Obama's style was more scripted and Trump's style is more unscripted. To go off script is to do or say something that is unplanned. Like you're starting with a script, you're starting with planned words. So like if Obama here, let's say he's reading off of these teleprompters, that's scripted, right? But then he adds in some ideas that he has that are not here. We call that going off script. For example, the president has a bad habit of going off script in interviews and speeches, which can sometimes get him into trouble. So he's starting to say things that are planned, but then he stops saying what's planned and just starts saying whatever he wants to say. That's going off script. So the stage. The stage is where the action happens. It's the place where the play happens, where the actors stand. It is where the audience or the people who are watching, it's where they're looking. The stage can be a noun or it can be a verb. So expressions that have the word stage mean something about where something is happening. Preparing a certain place for something to happen, or where people are looking. For example, if someone or something takes center stage, it means that's where everyone is looking, or that is what the most important thing is in a situation. And if you look at the picture here, we have the middle part, which is the stage. We have stage right and stage left. We have upstage and downstage. We have the audience. And then we have the wings. So the left wing and the right wing, these are parts that you can't see. They're behind usually a curtain or some kind of a set. This is the part that you can see right here is the main stage. So to stage something can mean a couple of things. It can mean to arrange an event. So the teachers staged a protest to fight for higher pay and better equipment for their schools. So it's just arranging. It can be an event or a party or something like that. You're just preparing the area or the situation. To be staged is to do something that is not genuine or real for other people to see. Like it's a play, right? Like you set everything up like it's not for real. For example, there are some people who believe that when the USA landed on the moon, it was staged and never really happened. So you can see here in the picture, this is a made-up picture. It's not real of the moon landing, but you can see there's television cameras there to making it look like they're in space. So this would be staged. So to stage something, this can get used for events. It can also get used for any kind of a presentation when they're arranging the room. Or to be staged, this will be used when people think that something that happened didn't actually happen, or people were trying to make it look different than what it actually was. So you might see it like if there's a crime that happens and people believe that it's not really how it happened, the way that the news is reporting it, they'll say, oh, that was staged. Like the gun, if there was a gun there, they don't believe that the gun belonged to the person. They say, oh, the gun was staged. To set the stage for something is when one thing prepares for or makes it possible for another thing to happen. So to set the stage, it's preparing the stage. For example, all of the snow we got this past winter really set the stage for the river flooding in the spring. And here in this area of the country, the river can overflow quite easily. So because there was a lot of snow, when the snow melts, it's setting the stage for flooding to happen after it melts. To take center stage is to be the focus of everyone's attention in a situation, because people are going to see the middle of the stage more easily. For example, over the past 100 years, the United States has taken center stage in the world economy, because whatever happens in America affects the rest of the world. And we saw this happen in 2008 with the financial crisis. There was a financial crisis starting with, I think, the housing market in the United States, and it quickly spread around the world so that there's financial problems all over the world. To upstage somebody is to take attention away from someone or something else in a situation. So, for example, in the picture up top here, you can see both of these guys are on stage, but your eyes are focusing on this guy. So he's upstaging the guy in the back. Or you can see in the picture down here, President Trump doesn't like to be upstaged, so he always tries to get in the last word in interviews and press conferences and on Twitter. So you can see here, this woman is the one that's standing behind the podium or the lectern. So she's supposed to be the one that's talking, but if you look, it's actually Donald Trump that's talking. He's not supposed to be the one talking at that point. So he's upstaging her. She's supposed to be the focus of attention, but he's taking the attention away. To get or have stage fright is to feel scared or nervous because you have to do or say something in front of other people. So stage fright means you're scared of being focused on, people looking at you. For example, John didn't want to give his presentation in class because he had stage fright. And you can see the look on his face there. He's obviously scared. The scene. So in a play, the scene is all of the things and the actions that the audience can see. It's everything that they can see. Expressions that include the word scene mean something about what people can or can't see in a situation, what's happening in a situation, or changing what's happening in the situation. For example, to cause, create, or make a scene is to behave in a loud, angry, or strange way in public so that everyone around notices. So in the picture here, you can see, for example, this woman is obviously upset or angry, and she's probably saying some unkind words to this girl here who's working. But whatever she's doing, you can tell other people are watching her. They're paying attention to her. So they're like the audience, and she's on the stage, right? So she's making a scene because she's causing other people to watch what she's doing. For example, I know you're mad at the store. I know you're mad that the store won't accept your credit card, but please don't make a scene. We can figure it out at home. So you've probably been out in a store or out somewhere in public and people start yelling or fighting and everybody starts watching them. That's making a scene. Behind the scenes. Behind the scenes means happening without other people knowing about it. For example, it's easy to think that teaching is just talking in front of students, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Now, if you look here in the picture, you can see inside here, there's some kind of a theater, but we're not looking inside the theater. We're looking at the back part of it. So this is behind the scene. So this is what people can see up in here. People can't see this part. So whatever these people are doing, it's behind the scenes. So saying that in teaching, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It means there's a lot that people don't see, a lot that students don't see that teachers are doing, like grading or paperwork or preparing lessons, the parts that don't get seen. To burst onto the scene or burst into the scene. To burst is like here, it means to come suddenly into a place. So to suddenly become popular or well-known is to burst onto the scene. For example, Barack Obama burst onto the political scene when he made a very popular speech at a political convention in 2004. Before that, almost nobody knew about him. So almost nobody knew who Barack Obama was, and then he gave one speech in 2004, and then all of a sudden everybody was talking about him. So he suddenly came to everybody's attention. He burst onto the scene. The cue. So the cue is in a play, it's a signal for someone to do or to say something. For example, if it's time for an actor to go on stage, someone else behind the scene or in the wing might do or say something to tell the actor that it's his or her time to go on stage. So expressions that use the word cue mean something about knowing when to say or do something specific. And you can see here in the picture, this guy is holding a cue card. This is called a cue card. There's a camera there. So you can't see this guy. The camera is looking at whatever's over here. And there's all these other cue cards on the floor. And this is what's going on television is there's some kind of a cue card or a screen that the people who are talking can see. And that's their cue to know what to say and what to do. So to say that something is right on cue or as if on cue is when something happens at an expected or at the right moment, whether by plan or by accident. For example, I was just thinking that I haven't heard from my brother in a while when, right on cue, I got a text message from him. And this actually happened to me the other day. There was somebody I was thinking about, and I was like, oh, I need to email that person. And then I went and checked my email, and sure enough, there was an email in my inbox from that person. So that was like right on cue as I was thinking about it. To cue someone in or to cue in someone, it's the same thing, is to let someone know what is happening or when it's time for something. For example, can you cue me in when it's my turn to talk? So let's say, for example, you're late to class and you come into the classroom, you don't know what's going on, and you lean over to somebody and say, hey, what's going on right now? What are you doing? They'll cue you in, or we can also say clue you in to let you know what's happening or what's going on. To take a cue from somebody or something is to know when to do something based on someone or something else's actions. For example, he took a cue from his wife when it was time to leave, when she went to put her coat on. So let's say my wife and I go to a party and I'm talking with people and my wife wants to go, but I don't know if she wants to go. Well, I look at my wife and she's starting to put her coat on. I was like, oh, that's my cue. It's time for me to go. So I'm taking a cue from her. To wing it is to say or do something without having prepared or planned for it. So this is related to cueing because if you look at the stage picture again, I pointed out the right wing and the left wing. These are the wings of the stage. So often there will be somebody standing in one of these wings that's telling or showing the actors what they're supposed to be doing. So they're giving actors cues. So if an actor is not prepared, if they haven't prepared their lines, memorized their script, they can wing it, which means that they're just going to look either to the left wing or the right wing to find out what they should be doing at that time. So it's doing something without being prepared. For example, whoops, I forgot I was supposed to give a presentation today. I'll just have to wing it, I guess. So you'll hear this wing it expression a lot when people just do something when they're not prepared to do it. So the show. This is the whole big thing. So the show is another word for the whole play. It includes everything that happens during the play, both on stage and behind the scenes. Expressions that use the word show mean something about a situation, event, or activity. For example, to steal the show is to take all or most of people's attention or praise in a situation. For example, all of the speeches were good, but that last one really stole the show. So if you say something steals the show or stole the show, it means like that was the best one out of all of them if there's more than one. To run the show is to lead some group or organization. For example, at home, his wife tends to run the show. He doesn't have much say in things. So you can see here, they're practicing a play, and this guy here is the director. So the director is the one telling them what to do. He's running the show. So to run the show is just to lead some group or organization. Let's get this show on the road. This one is said as a whole expression. Let's get the show on the road, or this show on the road. It's said when someone is ready to start an activity or event. For example, is everyone here? Great, then let's get the show on the road. So this might happen like at the beginning of a class, or if there's an event that's happening and everybody's ready to get started. So somebody will just say, hey, let's get the show on the road. It means let's start. And it's showtime. It's showtime is said when it's time to start something, usually something people have been waiting for. For example, I hope everyone is prepared to give their presentations today because it's showtime. That means it's time to go. There's no more time to wait. All right, so that's it for this list. Now go out and practice. Thanks for watching.